Welcome in to the 2024 Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special.
Yeah, you can have Penix, Patricia.
Who says I want him?
I had to put a chip down of one player in this draft to go to the Hall of Fame. Who's my pick? And it's Marvin Harrison Jr.
The Locked On Podcast Network presents the 2024 NFL Mock Draft Special. Sponsored by LinkedIn.
Welcome in to the 2024 Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special. The most comprehensive mock draft you'll find is even bigger and better again this year. This 6-episode series will take you through the entire first round of the NFL draft with unparalleled insight from the local experts of all 32 teams here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And don't worry, if your favorite team doesn't select in the first round, you won't be left out. The hosts of your favorite team's shows will be making their picks in the first round or whenever their picks show up in rounds 2 or maybe 3, if that's when your first team picks. And there might be teams trading out of the first round too. So you'll want to stick around to make sure you don't miss a minute of the action. Throughout this binge-worthy special, you'll get each selection and an inside look from all 32 of your local NFL shows and several of our college shows. We'll also get team-building insight from the draft dudes, Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino of Locked On NFL Scouting, and fantasy insight from our Locked On fantasy experts for some of the biggest selections in this year's draft. And of course, we are your hosts. I am Brian Peacock, NFL analyst and co-host of the Peacock and Williamson NFL show and Locked On 49ers. Here with me are my co-host, former NFL scout Matt Williamson. And this year, things just keep getting better. Joining Matt and I are NFL draft experts Keith Sanchez and Damian Parson from the outstanding Locked On NFL Draft podcast. This Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special is sponsored by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. All right, guys. When it comes to any mock draft, any NFL draft, it's always about the quarterbacks. And in this draft, we might see 4 in a row, 3 in a row. How many quarterbacks are we going to see in the first round, guys? Because this is a phenomenal year with some phenomenal talent. There's big time players that are not quarterbacks, but we kind of have a good idea of pick number 1. I don't know. What do you guys think, Damian? Quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, 4. You like 6 in the first round? How is this quarterback class stacking up to you? Because I know you've been grinding the tape.
Absolutely. And fellas, I think that we're in the situation where we're going to see 6 quarterbacks in round 1, right? This is a situation where teams need to fill the position, right? The Broncos, Vikings, teams outside of the top 10 need to fill that position. So I don't think teams are going to try and wait to day 2, wait to second or third round. I think we're going to see 6 off the board within the top 15 picks.
Matt, I know that you like some of the quarterbacks. I talk football with you every single day on the Locked On Podcast Network. I know you like some of the quarterbacks more than others. How do you see this quarterback class stacking up at the top?
Yeah, I think 4 out of the first 5 is close to a lock at this point, and maybe we'll get 4 in a row to lead this thing off. I look at the Raiders, I look at the Broncos as kind of in quarterback no man's land that could reach for that 5th guy or maybe trade back into the late first round to make it 6. Or at a minimum, I was going to say I'd really like 6 to go in the first round, but I'm going to say I'd like 6 to go in the top 35. You know, maybe it's a Levis situation where everyone goes home, sleeps a little bit, put some offers in for those early day 2 picks to get the last one.
Keith, when it comes to the quarterbacks in this class, and we've seen historically the hit rate on first round picks, period, but some of the quarterbacks and some of the recent drafts that were supposed to be generational draft classes for quarterbacks, you think that many teams are going to look at this and say, oh, I can't wait to spend not only this year's first round pick, but how about 3 first round picks to go up and get the 4th best quarterback in a class?
Yeah, BP, I think most teams are in a situation where they can't afford to wait, right? You talk about the Denver Broncos. They don't have a second-round pick, so it's not until the 3rd round until they could take a swing at a quarterback, and this is simply a supply and demand issue. We've seen free agency is pretty much over with, right? And everybody made a move for the quarterbacks that they want, so we're still sitting there with 6, 7, 8 teams that are trying to find a young quarterback to be able to lead their franchise heading into the 2024 season.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are very needy, and some of these coaches and GMs don't have a lot of time. The clock is ticking. They've got to find their franchise quarterback because without one, you are at a huge disadvantage in this football league. So I can't wait to see how this turns out. I think I know what position is going to go number one, and the pick is in. Lauren Cox is standing by with the first selection in our Locked On NFL mock draft special for 2024. The first pick coming up right now.
With the first pick in the Locked On NFL mock draft, the Chicago Bears select Caleb Williams, quarterback, USC. The Chicago Bears made this decision weeks ago, but finally locked it in with the trade of Justin Fields, moving on to their new franchise quarterback. The Bears have swung and missed on quarterbacks in the past, but they've never had the opportunity to take a quarterback like Caleb Williams, a bona fide number one overall pick, a consensus top prospect in the draft, and coming into a situation in Chicago that not many number one overall pick quarterbacks get to walk into. Bona fide receivers, pieces added on the offensive line, weapons across the board, and a defense that was playing some great football last season as well. Caleb Williams has playmaking ability that Chicago has been dying for, and he is their opportunity to break the quarterback cycle and pretty easily become the best quarterback in franchise history. It's not a high bar, and Caleb Williams is set to eclipse it.
There we go. As expected, the Chicago Bears select Caleb Williams, quarterback from USC. Keith, what do you think about Caleb Williams? Is he not only the talent that the Chicago Bears need, but is he the leader that the Chicago Bears need going forward to finally find their first great quarterback in any of our lifetimes?
Yeah, so I'm gonna address the talent first. And if you ask me just based off of film, do I believe the talent is there? Yes, he is the most talented quarterback that has wore Chicago Bears uniform. But the problem is this, that the second best quarterback that as far as talents wore Chicago Bears uniform was Justin Fields. And that didn't work out. And I want to hit on the fact of the surrounding pieces, what's going to matter. Now, it seems like general manager Ryan Poles understands that, acquiring, free agency guys, trading for guys. So if I'm a Chicago's Bears fan, I'm excited. Now, if we talk about the off the field stuff and the leadership, listen, we've seen and we've heard from his teammates, right? Everybody seems to support Caleb Williams off the field. I think what happens is Caleb Williams is probably the new generation of these new guys that are ushering into the NFL, right? And guys like us, BP, Williamson, and DP, right? We're not used to this from quarterbacks, but I'll say this, Aaron Rodgers rubbed a lot of people wrong for a long time, and he went on to throw 40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So if you're Chicago Bears fans, you should be excited about what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think being comfortable in your own skin is the most important thing, right, Matt?
Yeah, and I love, what Keith said, too, about some of the pieces they put in place, namely Keenan Allen. I mean, that's a rookie quarterback's whoopee. I mean, that is a great little, comfort blanket for him. And Brian, you mentioned at the start of the show, there's jobs at stake here. I mean, if you're the Bears decision makers and you don't make this pick, you're begging to get fired.
No doubt. They have another selection as well to help out and maybe build a little bit of a more comfortable nest, right, Damian, with the 9th pick coming up as well for those Bears.
100%. Bringing in Keenan Allen, having the 9th pick, this is an opportunity for them to put themselves in the right position, put the foot on the gas pedal, and actually build around the young quarterback. Truthfully, they've kind of done a good job of that before the quarterback was even selected. And that's what you want to do, is have the house already made so he can kind of walk in and just live in it, right? You don't want him to come in with a lot of chores to do, trying to build something. He's young. He's trying to learn how to be a pro. My only concern with Chicago is this. They kept Matt Eberflus as the head coach. We saw them do this with Justin Fields, right? Where they kept Matt Nagy and company. Typically, if you're going to make this type of move, I'd rather a brand new starting head coaching staff and a brand new just coaching staff in general. Because what happens if this fails in year one and then you fire Eberflus, you lose the OC, now you got a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator. Now you know what you're looking at? Justin Fields, yet again, going into year 2 with Caleb Williams, going with a new offense. And you did it. What, Jay Cutler had that problem. We've seen it with Baker Mayfield when he was in Cleveland. Let's find some stability finally, Chicago, and let's do this thing the right way.
That happened with Mitch Trubisky in Chicago, too. They can't get that out of their own way. So hopefully this is the one that sticks and everybody's back next year and into the future for those Chicago Bears with quarterback Caleb Williams. According to the Green Room, the Bears had all the choices in the draft, but really they only had one. Here's Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans over in the Locked On NFL War Room.
This is what they had to do. Right. I mean, if they do anything else, they just open themselves up to such criticism, and they just can't do it for the sake of Bears fans. just do the easy thing. And it looks like that's exactly, what they're going to do. So great.
There's not
It's
a lot of
been the worst
overall...
kept secret for like 2 months too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, there's not a lot of first overall quarterbacks that have come into a better situation, right? I mean, he's got 2 potentially bona fide number 1 receivers, a good running back in DeAndre Swift, a much better defense. This is not your typical, first overall team.
For more on the fantasy impact of this selection, let's go to Locked On Fantasy Football co-host Michelle Majuk.
It is rare for a quarterback drafted as the number 1 overall pick to play for a team with so many good weapons. But that's what Caleb Williams is going to be able to do. He gets DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, and maybe even another highly drafted wide receiver to lean on in his rookie season. So considering his skill set as a very strong passer and a dynamic runner, plus the playmaker surrounding him, Caleb Williams should have considerable upside for fantasy immediately in his rookie season. However, I am worried about his impact on DJ Moore's and Keenan Allen's fantasy value. Over the last 10 seasons, only 3 wide receivers had at least 1,100 receiving yards in a season playing with a rookie quarterback. 2 of them actually occurred last year with Nico Collins playing with CJ Stroud and Devontae Adams playing with Aiden O'Connell. And then we also had the Mike Evans season back in 2015 with Jameis Winston. However, no rookie quarterback has supported multiple wide receivers to have 1,000+ receiving yard seasons over the last 20 years. And then to go even deeper, no rookie quarterback has supported multiple wide receivers to have 1,000+ receiving yards and 5+ receiving touchdowns in NFL history. So it seems highly unlikely that both DJ Moore and Keenan Allen will be able to have strong fantasy seasons like we're used to in 2024 playing with rookie quarterback Caleb Williams.
1 pick down, 31 and more to go beyond round 1 here in the 2024 Locked On NFL mock draft. Locked On Commanders host David Harrison has been working on trades all day. 3-team trades even potentially in the works from what I'm hearing. Will he get it done and move back, or will the Commanders stick and pick, land their franchise quarterback at number 2? We've got that coming up next on the 2024 Locked On NFL mock draft special. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Continuing on with the 2024 Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special. 1 pick in the books. It's Caleb Williams to the Chicago Bears. And now on the clock is the Washington Commanders. And we've got David Harrison, Locked On Commanders host, standing by to make that pick. And sounds like they're ready to go. And there's not going to be a trade here trying to move out. But, I mean, just like we talked about with Jobs, and I know there's a new regime in town, you might have a little bit more leeway if you're the Commanders. And Adam Peters, and you got a new head coach, you got a new offensive coordinator. Can you get a system in place first before you go get your quarterback? Or I don't know, Matt, what do you think? Do you have to strike when you're drafting at pick number 2 and you've got a good stable of quarterbacks to potentially choose from? Do you have to make the pick here and not get out and not mess around and not get too cute? Go get yourself a franchise quarterback.
Well, I think this is such a unique situation because the whole goal of the franchise has to be to get rid of the stench of the old ownership and the way they used to do business, and I think you need new people on the billboards, reason to go to the stadium, try to get this fan base back like they were when we were kids, you know what I mean? And everybody wanted to go see the Hogs and all these guys, and they have a lot of work to do. But I think sometimes it's, outside of what's best for getting wins, and let's try to just change the culture. And I think a quarterback would go a long way.
Keith, which one of these quarterbacks smells the best if you're trying to get rid of the stench in that building?
Yeah, can I say this? I'm kind of slightly disappointed right after pick 1. I like Caleb Williams to the Chicago Bears, but Damian, you know this, right? I was really pounding the drum for the Commanders to move up to pick 1, right? Bring Caleb Williams back home, sell the tickets. Exactly what Matt was talking about. But man, if you look at the rest of these guys, I think about who will fit with offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, right, in his offense. And because I think Dan Quinn kind of focus on his side of the football, right? Being a head coach, he'll focus on the defense. So I'm going to go with Drake Maye right here. Just the guy that has, I understand he can throw passes at a high volume, game in and game out, right? And I expect that threshold to be anywhere between 27 and 35 passes per game. He has experience putting it all on his shoulders, spreading it out and throwing the football. So I like Drake Maye right here for the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, being at the second overall spot, the drafting a quarterback has not been kind when teams have done it. Mitchell Trubisky, Zach Wilson, Marcus Mariota. It's not been a great turnaround, right? So if you're the Commanders, you kind of want to make sure you nail this pick. You want to be the Houston Texans of 2023 and find your CJ Stroud, the guy that bucks that trend and takes your team to that next level. And I think with Cliff Kingsbury being in town, to me, it's probably, if you're going to go quarterback here, I think it should be Drake Maye, a guy that can kind of operate in that air raid type of offense. He's used to dropping back, throwing at a high volume because North Carolina relied on no one but him. So he's kind of used to that type of workload. And I think that he'll be a good fit there.
All right, David Harrison, no pressures, just the entire weight of the Washington Commanders franchise on your shoulders to get this pick right at number 2. And the pick is in. Let's go to David Harrison with the number 2 selection in the 2024 Locked On NFL Mock Draft. And the Locked On Commanders host is ready to go.
With the second pick in the Locked On NFL Mock Draft, the Washington Commanders select Jayden Daniels, quarterback, LSU, by way of Arizona State. And for the Washington Commanders, this offseason has been all about the messaging of getting the right style in place and getting the right people to fit the style of the team, not just the offense, but the style that this team wants to play with: explosive, energetic, and physical. They want people who are tough. They want people who are going to go out there and make big plays when the big play is there to be made. And that doesn't sound like any other quarterback available right now than Jayden Daniels. And there are certainly some questions about him and his development and which throws he can and can't make, but there's questions about every single quarterback prospect. When I look at Cliff Kingsbury, when I look at Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, the new general manager, and the style of football they want to play, it just seems like everything they're saying points to this quarterback prospect. So I think that's the direction that they probably lean to make this selection. And with it, hopefully, a new day of football at Washington Commanders and maybe the start to a new winning tradition in the DMV.
So it is the LSU quarterback, Jayden Daniels. I remember him from back in the day when my guy Brandon Ayuk was a wide receiver at Arizona State, and he kind of burst on the scene. He was like, this guy might be something, maybe even a future first-round pick. Kind of disappeared for a few years, popped up at LSU, and had a phenomenal Heisman campaign. Keith, you were at the LSU Pro Day. What did you see from Jayden Daniels there? Does he throw the ball like a guy who's the high upside pick that David Harrison just talked about here for the Washington Commanders at pick number 2?
Yeah, definitely. I think he throws the ball good enough, right? And we've seen him work, outside the numbers, right? Work some deep comebacks. And then also we know that he probably throws maybe top 2 deep ball, right? When we're talking about deep ball accuracy, getting the ball to Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. So if I'm looking at the Washington Commanders situation, I'm excited about it for Jayden Daniels moving forward because they have 2 really good wide receivers, right? With Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. Also, throwing the football is his B trait, right? Running the football is his A trait and what makes him special. So, yeah, I think it should be an exciting situation. It's just a matter of, hey, how compatible will Cliff Kingsbury be with his skill set, talking about Jayden Daniels and being able to move the offense forward because they do need to improve this offensive line also.
And we've seen Cliff Kingsbury very recently in the NFL with a really athletic dual threat type of quarterback, Damian. Yep. The wins and losses didn't really go the way that they hoped in Arizona. Is this a different story for Cliff's offense with Jayden Daniels in Washington?
I think so. I think this Washington's team is more talented offensively, right? You don't have to question where the ball is going to in terms of who's the receivers that Jayden Daniels is going to throw to. After a while, when DeAndre Hopkins, the whole suspension and everything else, it just kind of unraveled at the seams. And I think with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, they got to get a tight end. They have, good running backs in the backfield. Jayden Daniels throws arguably the best deep ball in this class, right? Touch, timing, anticipation, ball placement down the field, but his electricity comes from his legs. And when you have a guy with the, dare I say, the burst of a Lamar Jackson that can get out and really tote the rock and not just get 10, 15. We've seen him in the SEC get 30, get 40, get 60, get 70. That's a scary combination of a guy that can win from the pocket, but then also create with his legs.
Matt, did it feel like Washington hired Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator, knowing that it might be a dual threat type of quarterback for them in the draft, and maybe knowing all along Jayden Daniels would be a guy that they'd want to select at pick number 2, knowing that Caleb Williams would very likely be the first pick in this draft?
I kind of look at it another way. I mean, first of all, I think Kingsbury might be the perfect example of coordinator, not head coach. You know, I mean, and there's a couple. Arthur Smith might be another. Guys like that. You know, I mean, so maybe they hit their head on the ceiling of being a coordinator. But to be honest, yes, Daniels is the best runner, but the Drew Bledsoes of the world are gone. I mean, all these guys can move. They can all do something with their legs, or they wouldn't even be considered this early. So yes, he's the best runner. I prefer Maye, but that's, you know, splitting hairs, to be honest with you. But I don't know that you have to be a Kyler or Daniels level athlete, you know, to be a fit in this offense either.
Did the Washington Commanders get the best QB in the draft? Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings thinks so, over in the Locked On NFL War Room.
I love Jayden Daniels. If I had the first overall pick, I honestly would think about it. So I think that's perfect. Great fit with Cliff Kingsbury. They know each other and all that stuff. So I think it works out perfect for them.
Oh, he's talking 1.1 with Jayden Daniels there. Okay. All right. I see where Luke Braun's at, putting his name down. I'm going to write that down. I'll remember that and come back in 10 years and we'll see if he's right. So, I mean, obviously upside is the swing there for the Washington Commanders with the second pick in the draft and Jayden Daniels. Quarterback so far in this Locked On NFL mock draft. And it's time to go to Carolyn Fenton, the host of Locked On LSU, for more insight on the player that is Jayden Daniels.
This is what the NFL team that drafts Jayden Daniels is getting in their future QB1. First and foremost, he's an elite athlete. That's what separates him from the rest of the quarterbacks in this year's draft. And it also is what separated him from the rest of the quarterbacks in college football this past year that really elevated his Heisman campaign. And it's the plays that he can make with his legs that Jayden Daniels can turn any run into a potential touchdown run. And he doesn't need massive gaps in order to create some explosive plays. He's so slippery and he is so elusive. Overall, he makes it look easy. He's so cool, calm, and collective. And that also applies in the pocket as well, because not only is Jayden Daniels an elite athlete, an elite runner, he's an elite passer as well. Jayden Daniels completed nearly 70% of his passing attempts of 20 yards or more. He is the best deep ball passer in this year's draft. Jayden Daniels can make truly any throw that you ask him to make.
So 2 quarterbacks off the board here in the Locked On NFL mock draft special, but there's still a couple of quarterbacks that could fly off the board next. I'm hearing about trade conversations here, some involving the New England Patriots at 3, some involving some teams behind the Patriots. I think we could probably figure out what teams might be trying to move up. If they are indeed moving up for a quarterback, there's some really good wide receivers in this class as well. Damian, is it an easy decision for you here? Because you talked about Drake Maye already. The Patriots are sitting at 3. Do you go quarterback? Do you listen? Do you just not even pick up the phone? Or what about Marvin Harrison Jr. sitting over there, the best non-quarterback in this class? Might be the number 1 player on some teams' boards, period.
I love Marvin Harrison Jr., but I am not selecting him over a quarterback in this situation. I do think with Drake Maye falling to 3, you listen to whoever's calling, right? See what they are offering. If they want to give you the Kings of Kings ransom, then you have that real discussion in the war room. Like, do we make this move, right? But for me, I look at it like this. Drake May's falling there. I'm putting the card in, and I'm taking Drake Maye. And I'm not even thinking about it, because it's one thing to build the team up, but then you have to still figure out the quarterback situation. And, yeah, Jacoby Brissett was signed to a short 1-year deal. But am I going to wait until day 2 and try and grab a Michael Pratt? You know, I love Spencer Rattler, but I really love the tools, the ability, and the ceiling of a Drake Maye. I'd rather get that type of elite prospect than waiting for someone else later down in the draft.
I want to jump in there real quick, DP, and have kind of a counter argument, right? Is that, are we confident in what the New England Patriots have offensively, right? We always talk about, a rookie quarterback.
Really? No.
We always talk about a rookie quarterback being a team being ready for a rookie quarterback, and I'm right there with you. Just as blunt as Matt said, right? No. So every time I do a mock draft, I cringe when I kind of have to put a quarterback there. If I was the New England Patriots, I would trade out of the number 3 pick, hopefully trade down to number 10, get an offensive tackle, a couple other pieces. But 9 times out of 10, they're probably still going to go quarterback.
Well, I do know that those conversations were had, but no trades were consummated here. Mike Debate, the host of Locked On Patriots, is ready to go with the 3rd pick in the 2024 Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special.
With the 3rd pick in the Locked On NFL Mock Draft, the New England Patriots select Drake Maye, quarterback out of the University of North Carolina. What do you get for the team that needs, well, everything? In this case, you start with the most high profile and arguably the most important position on the field, and that's the quarterback. Drake Maye has all of the physical tools and the skill set to be a solid quarterback at the pro level. 6'4", 223 pounds, he has the arm strength to make the throws to any area of the field, and his ability to maneuver in and around the pocket and make plays with his legs means that defenses have to account for his whereabouts on every single snap. If he can control his tendencies to push the big play when a simple check down will do, he's going to be exactly what the New England Patriots need at the position. Again, the Pats have a lot of holes on this roster. They're going to need to build the talent and protection around Drake before he's able to realize his full potential. But the presence of Jacoby Brissett will allow him to learn the pro game at his own pace from one of the best veteran mentors in the game today. All in all, Alex Van Pelt projects as a solid fit for the New England Patriots and Alex Van Pelt's offense.
Matt, you talk all the time on the Peacock and Williamson NFL show about teams building a nest for their young quarterbacks. Yep. We've mentioned how the Bears are in a pretty good spot here, much better for young Caleb Williams than they were when Justin Fields was drafted there. Of the top 3 teams we've seen so far draft quarterbacks, by far the worst nest is in New England with the Patriots. What do you think about this selection of Drake Maye at 3?
Yeah, I think this nest is made out of thorns and barbed wire and just begging for problems. And Drake Maye's my number 2 quarterback, and
I agree.
He would have been my pick, but boy, I would have loved to have traded back and taken Joe Alt, a guard, a center, another receiver, go trade for T. Higgins the day after the draft, and then worry about this down the road. But a couple things. So Penix, Nix, and Daniels are all 2-3 years older than Maye. Some cases maybe even close to 4. I wonder what a 23-year-old Drake Maye would have done at Oregon, LSU, Washington this year. He would have been unbelievable. I mean, of course. Or Caleb Williams is a 23-year-old. We're working on his craft every offseason. But Maye probably had the worst year of all those guys. Daniels had the best, just on the field. But I think you're setting Maye up to make the exact same mistakes he did this year in North Carolina and have to do too much, and the nest is on fire.
No, I agree, right? Because it's the exact same problems, right? We talked about the offensive line and wide receivers at North Carolina, and then now the same issues at New England, the offensive line and wide receivers. So, yeah, I'm definitely nervous. I agree with you, Matt. He is my QB2 also, so I like the prospect, but the situation is extremely difficult. And New England Patriots fans, they have to, be patient, right, as far as developing this roster.
And guys, that's why the draft is more than one round, because they can absolutely fix some of these problems. I think especially a wide receiver, right? It's one of the deepest classes we've seen in recent history, where you're going to get a legitimate you're going to get a legitimate starter in round 2, at the top of round 2, where we know they will be selecting. But like Matt said, maybe you send that second round to Cincinnati and say, give me T. Higgins. And now you walk into probably week 4 or 5 when Jacoby Brissett hands over the reins to Drake Maye, because I don't think Gerard Mayo, as a former player, is going to set Drake Maye up for failure by starting him right away, unless he is just hands down the better quarterback in camp and he wins that battle. You start Jacoby Brissett, take that pressure off the young quarterback, then allow him to hold that clipboard, learn what it is to be a pro, learn what you can do and what you can't do as a quarterback in the NFL by watching and learning. And then he steps in somewhere in his rookie year. But getting a guy like T. Higgins with that second round pick sure helps a lot.
And Damian, I think you said this earlier, Brissett's perfect for that. He's tough as could be. He's been around the block. I'm a big Brissett fan. So
Same.
I think that's an ideal situation in the quarterback room.
After 3 straight quarterbacks, Locked On Giants host Patricia Traina is in the Locked On NFL War Room, wondering if there might be anyone left for the Giants to select a quarterback when they're selecting all the way back at pick 6.
Y'all going to leave me a quarterback for the Giants or what?
You might be in trouble, Patricia.
Look, I'm just glad we didn't have to bully Mike into being more enthusiastic. I mean, he was already excited about the pick.
Here comes the race for J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, there you go. Michael Penix, guys. I'm telling you. There it goes.
He's right. He'll be right there. Yeah, you can have Penix, Patricia.
Who says I want him?
Wow. Okay. Patricia even throws some shade. That's where I come back to with a lot of this. We're talking trades. What are the odds that every team's going to be like, oh, yeah, I love all 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks so much. I'm going to go trade up and get the 4th guy. I love the 5th guy. I love the 6th guy. A lot of these teams might really like one of these guys and love him and maybe don't feel as strong about some of the other quarterback prospects. And that's when I think we might see fireworks in this NFL draft. Speaking of fireworks, there's a lot of conversations happening right now. They keep heating up with every pick. A lot of hosts trying to make trades for their teams. But with 3 picks in the books, let's check in with Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast for more analysis on those selections.
So, Joe, I would consider the first 3 picks, which are now in the books, to be generally chalk. This is the one of the scenarios that we looked for and expected, with Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels going 1 and 2. New England staying and picking Drake Maye perhaps is the biggest talking point here as we react to these first 3 picks with this mock draft underway.
I get excited about Caleb Williams. I know that it's the expectation that he's the number 1 pick, but him stepping into the Chicago Bears offense, that feels like it's pretty well set around him with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift at running back, Cole Kmet at tight end. It feels like they have some offensive line talent in the mix as well. I'm pretty excited for Caleb Williams to step into what appears to be a really, really good opportunity, especially when you foil that against what Mitch Trubisky stepped into and what Justin Fields stepped into. I find myself really fascinated in how this is going to work with Jayden Daniels in Washington, with Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator. They need some work with that offensive line. Feels like they got some skill players. Kyle, your thoughts on Jayden Daniels, Cliff Kingsbury? What does that marriage look like for you?
Well, I think you think about what Arizona was with Kyler Murray, with Cliff Kingsbury, and felt like they got by on the offensive line. And one of the reasons why was they had an athletic quarterback that kind of changed the rush lanes and allowed you to be +1 in the run game with what the quarterback was able to do. And they had a lot of designed quarterback runs. And I have no reason to think that won't be exactly what Washington looks to implement with Jayden Daniels when you consider his athletic skill set, how explosive he is as a runner. He's got the same arm strength that Kyler did to push the ball to all levels of the field and attack vertically with play action passing and rolling out. So then you've got Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, these explosive weapons on the outside that you can kind of get more from than you got this past season with Sam Howell. So I think that vision's, I find myself picturing what that's going to look like fairly well. The challenge is going to be, what's the ceiling with Jayden Daniels as a young quarterback coming in to run it? That's kind of the mystery, is what the ceiling is going to be right away, particularly if they don't get fortified on the offensive line with a bunch of studs up front that can really help you consistently just line up and run the football instead of relying on the math of the quarterback run game to help run the football.
Patriots went out and got Drake Maye. I understand taking the quarterback, but now they have to be real serious about getting the offensive infrastructure correct around Drake Maye. Kyle, what's the biggest move that they made this offseason for their offense? KJ Osborne. Come on now. We got to get some receivers. We just lost our left tackle in Trent Brown. We got work to do on this supporting cast. And so I think for New England, you got the toolsy quarterback. He's intriguing. How do you build around this guy? Because you completely failed Mac Jones in every imaginable way. You better have learned some lessons and give Drake Maye a real chance here by building up the offensive infrastructure. That has to be the top priority for New England moving forward.
Well, I think the irony here is you just got done talking about with Caleb Williams coming into Chicago and having a different lease on life than what Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Fields did. I feel like Drake Maye's kind of in that boat now with what New England has to offer. So if I'm New England, I'm probably still looking at starting Jacoby Brissett. to start the season at the very least. And I want to make sure that I get some things stable before I put Drake Maye out there as quarterback who's played in a couple different systems the past few seasons and took some steps forward this past year, but now making the leap to the NFL where you're really going to be tested and try to be a catalyst for that offense that doesn't have a lot of support and guys that will make your life easier. I think that's the big question for New England is how much can we get done right now? And what does that mean for year one expectations for Drake Maye if you're going to play?
The Arizona Cardinals on the clock at pick number 4. No longer. We have a trade, guys. The Vikings have been working the phones, and Locked On Vikings host Luke Braun is recapping how a trade with the Arizona Cardinals for number 4 overall came together.
Minnesota's trading up. Pick 11, pick 23, and a 2025 first going to Arizona. We get pick 4, as well as pick 71 and a third rounder next year.
Excellent.
All right. I was working the phones a lot here. The Vikings are very determined to trade up. They know the Giants are looking at J.J. McCarthy. They know that if they want a serious quarterback, they're going to have to leapfrog him at 6. So I was working the phones. I talked to everybody in the top 6, including I even reached out to Patricia. But I talked to everybody except for the Bears. I knew the Bears were locked in at number 1. Talked about a lot of interesting ideas. Ultimately settled on this trade up with Arizona, and that's probably an overpay to 3 first-round picks for QB4. Most of the time, it's an overpay, but you got to do what you got to do. It's either that or start coping with Bo Nix. I'm taking the overpay every single time.
Wow. Okay. Maybe an overpay. We're talking 3 first-round picks, a lot of picks changing hands to go from number 11 to number 4 to get the 4th quarterback in this class, presumably. And we'll hear from Luke Braun on who that player is, guys, as the Minnesota Vikings are now on the clock at pick number 4. 2 first-rounders this year, 11 and 23, plus a 2025 first that could become a very high pick. If you're the Cardinals, you had to ask a lot to get out of a position to draft the best wide receiver in this class, Marvin Harrison Jr. Now you're down at pick 11. It was going to be expensive, and Luke Braun and the Minnesota Vikings paid the price. Next, we will find out exactly what Luke Braun is doing at pick number 4. Is it J.J. McCarthy? And our thoughts on the trade and the player at pick number 4 and pick number 5 as we finish up episode number 1 of the 2024 Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special. I've been told I'm a competitive person, and yeah, I do have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times, and it's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with your friends. And I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Matt, what do you think? An overpay? 3 first-round picks to go from 11 to number 4, presumably for J.J. McCarthy. 11, 23, a 2025 first. We heard Luke Braun lay out how hard it was to get up, how expensive it was to get up, and even recognize, you know what? To go up and get a quarterback, it's probably an overpay. Is it worth it, though, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, so I was at the owners' meetings, and some people very much in the know think McCarthy could go as early as 2. I mean, and I went, wow, okay. I mean, I guess I believe you. You know more than me. And I do think the Vikes are an ideal nest. I mean, they got tackles, they got receivers, Hawkinson. I think they have a very good coach that's obviously quarterback friendly. And I give Luke credit for finagling 2 third-round picks, I think, out of it, too. 1 this year, 1 next year. So it's a little something in return. But I am never giving up 3 first-round picks for J.J. McCarthy. I'm sorry. That's a lot.
Okay. I want to jump in there, too. And for all the reasons, Matt, that you said the Minnesota Vikings are a great situation for a quarterback if you trade up, I would make the argument that's why I would probably stand pat, right? We're coming off a Super Bowl where the San Francisco 49ers had a really good nest, and a Mr. Irrelevant himself, right, took them to the Super Bowl. And I don't think that my quarterback that I would be eyeing if I'm not moving up and trading away 3 first-rounders, plus more, would be Michael Penix. Because this guy can throw the football at a high level, right? He proved that his pro day that he's a solid athlete. And then we hired Kevin O'Connell, the head coach, because we thought that he was an offensive guru, right? We thought he was a really talented guy on the offensive side of football. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna get you a quarterback and I get to work and figure it out. So I'm kind of indifferent. It doesn't make me really excited with the guy who made the trade says it's an overpay, right? You get a little nervous when the guy's admitted himself and saying it's an overpay. So we'll see how it goes.
There's a phrase in hip hop music: "Scared money don't make money," guys. So the Minnesota Vikings said we have to figure it out and go get a quarterback. And I commend them for it, right? Because they've been kind of settling for so long. And I heard down at the Senior Bowl, like when free agency came about, I knew Kirk Cousins wasn't going to be back. I had already heard it down at the Senior Bowl that it was either Kirk Cousins or a rookie QB because both couldn't coincide on the same roster. So I'm happy to see them say, you know what? Thank you for everything, Kirk. Let's go get our guy.
Let's go to Luke Braun and just make sure he's going with J.J. McCarthy here at pick number 4. With the pick at number 4, Locked On Vikings host Luke Braun.
With the 4th overall pick, the Minnesota Vikings will select J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan. Coming up to 4 maybe seems a little expensive for that, and I'm super sympathetic to that, but it beats the alternative, which is either finding a way to cope with Bo Nix or waiting until next year when the quarterback class is not supposed to be very good. You're dealing with like 2 years of Sam Darnold? I'm not doing that. I'm not wasting the last relatively cheap years that we have of Justin Jefferson on that just so that we can like maybe say that we eked out a little bit of extra value. Totally would rather overpay. And the thing about J.J. McCarthy is I like him. I wouldn't do this if I didn't think this dude had a real shot to be the franchise quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, to actually work out. This is not a Band-Aid guy that, you're hoping that maybe you can move off of him in 3 years if you can justify it. No, I think this guy can be the guy. What he did in Michigan is, I think, overly scrutinized for stuff that doesn't have anything to do with him. Michigan led for I think every second half they played in his final season at Michigan. So yeah, they ran a lot. They had to lead a lot. Guess why they had to lead a lot? Because J.J. McCarthy was able to operate the offense and dig them out of third down holes when they needed him to do it. And that's when you really see the best of J.J. McCarthy. When they did need something from him, you saw the best from him. And it's not on him that Blake Corum just made it so they didn't need a lot out of the passing game. But when the pass protection would break down, which happened a lot, when the wide receivers would break down, which happened a lot, I like Roman Wilson. I don't like the rest of those Michigan receivers, and I don't like the pass protection of the rest of that Michigan O-line. It really felt like J.J. McCarthy would have to scramble around and make a play. The way he dances in the pocket is very controlled and very sustainable, and the way that he executes the scramble drill is, it's textbook.
Let me chime in real quick, if you don't mind. I don't know that J.J. McCarthy had it all that rough, to be honest with you. I mean, they won the national title by handing the ball off, and he did some good things, and I give him credit, especially on third down, red zone, the stuff that coaches watch and love, he was great at. But I don't know that Drake Maye's crying for him too much right now of situation at Michigan.
Yeah, he had a pretty good situation there. Obviously, a winner and a leader. And this pre-draft process, he's kind of been lights out and, maybe weighed in a little bigger than some people thought, held that weight into his pro day, throwing the ball really well at his pro day. He's athletic as well. Everyone seems to love the kid. Damian, what kind of a upside are we talking about with J.J. McCarthy here?
The combination of arm talent and athleticism, he has a high ceiling for me. This is a young man who we haven't seen him handle like a heavy workload. Like Luke said, they ran the ball a lot. They were in leads. But I think running and operating that pro-style offense, being under center, used to the play action game, turning his back to the defense, turning back around, be able to find his reads. Also, he's calm under pressure whenever it was able to happen. He showcased the ability to evade, reset, and trigger off throws. He can attack the middle of the field. The main thing for him is with a guy like Kevin O'Connell, getting him on the move, right? Flood concepts, with the sprint action, mesh concepts, things of that nature. He's got to just consistently work on his base. He has his footwork gets a little erratic at times where he overstrides with that lead foot, causing some overthrows outside the numbers and down the field. Let me tell you something. When you got Justin Jefferson out there, you better make sure you're putting it on the money. All right, he's used to Kirk Cousins putting it on the money. Don't be overthrowing them 5-10 yards down the field, which he kind of did a little bit at Michigan when he didn't need to. It's just know how to be a multi-speed pitcher, and I think that's something that comes along with those reps because he's got a strong arm, but everything doesn't need to be a 100-mile-per-hour heat seeker.
Real quick, Damian, I'm glad you mentioned Justin Jefferson because you're going to give this guy $35 million or $32 million. The rookie quarterback contract does make more sense. I think we just have to throw the finances into this as well. There is a dollars and cents side of it all.
Yes, sir.
And Keith, you project a guy who's going to hold up when he's asked to throw the ball a bit more, because you might get in the NFL and maybe handing it off isn't working as well as it did with Jim Harbaugh's offense in college. And you got 3rd and longs. And is he that type of an arm? Is he that type of a thrower to be a guy who's going to throw himself out of trouble at the next level?
I think eventually, right? But I think it's more about the situation that we said, right? You have one all-pro, potentially best wide receiver in the NFL, and then another guy, Jordan Addison, before the injury, right? He showed more that he can handle a full workload, right? As a potential wide receiver 1.5, and then a healthy TJ Hawkinson. What they have, Aaron Jones in the backfield, I believe. So it's a good situation for J.J. McCarthy, and I wouldn't expect by week 1 they come and take the training wheels off. By week 12, 13, I'm expecting to see some empty type stuff and see what he can do. But I think this is, if not the best, the second best situation for all these rookie quarterbacks.
BP, real quick, I wanted to ask the guys, with Sam Darnold there, we talked about it with Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett starting. Are you giving JJ the keys week 1, day 1,
I wouldn't.
the first game?
I think he's far away.
That's how I felt too. I'm like, I figure you got to start Darnold at least half the season to really allow this young man to kind of get his bearings in the NFL.
Definitely. And we have to talk about the case study of these teams who've sat in quarterbacks, right? The Green Bay Packers have did it, 3 times in a row, and they're about to pump out Hall of Famer. Patrick Mahomes, right, sat down. So
Jordan Love go to the Hall of Fame already? Wow. He looks pretty good, but that might be a little ahead.
Understand what I'm saying is that if he averages 31 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, they're going to be an argument, right, for Hall of Fame or something like that. And so I think there's just an argument to sit these guys, and I'm all for it. A rookie quarterback, you don't have to play in week 1. General manager, head coach, be strong, be firm in what you see in practice, and if they're not ready, sit them down. You have to almost ignore the fan base sometimes.
And Keith, you said J.J. McCarthy's in a good situation. You know who else is in a good situation? The Los Angeles Chargers, sitting here at pick 5 and just letting everybody take quarterbacks in front of them. And as Jim Harbaugh said, it basically gives you the number 1 pick in the draft at 5 if you're not taking the quarterback, and they got Justin Herbert. So they're not worried about the quarterbacks going in front of them. In fact, they're rooting for it. So Daniel Wade is ready to go now with the quasi first pick in the 2024 Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special. Daniel Wade ready to go with the pick at number 5 for Locked On Chargers.
With the 5th pick in the 2024 Locked On NFL Mock Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver, The Ohio State University. This is a pick that fell exactly the way the Chargers could hope for on draft day. They stay at 5 and get the best wide receiver prospect in this draft class, and one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in recent memory. It is a good thing to have a quarterback. 4 quarterbacks go before the Chargers here, and they end up with Marvin Harrison Jr. I thought about trading back with the Vikings to potentially get picks 11 and picks 23. They end up moving up to 4 with the Cardinals to get their quarterback, leaving the Chargers with Marvin Harrison Jr., and it's an easy pick. But it was tough to not go with Malik Neighbors just because of how explosive he is. Another really, really good prospect. But since the Chargers traded Keenan Allen, their number 1 receiver, they let go of their second best wide receiver with Mike Williams. The difference is Marvin Harrison Jr. has a polish where he can come in and be wide receiver 1 for the Chargers right away, get that instant production in 2024, and fill just a gigantic hole they have right now in their wide receiving core. This couldn't have felt any better for the Chargers. You get someone who's good in all areas, a truly pro-ready prospect in Marvin Harrison Jr., and you don't overthink it and get Justin Herbert, his number 1 wide receiver.
Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Los Angeles Chargers, a pick number 5. Damian, a lot of terms get thrown around during draft season, like generational. How good is Marvin Harrison Jr.? People saying he's a bigger version of his dad. People saying he's a faster version of Larry Fitzgerald. That sounds pretty darn good. What are we talking about with Marvin Harrison Jr.? Is he that good?
He's that good, guys. And I'll bring a quote from the 2023 college football playoffs when Georgia's playing TCU after they squeaked by Ohio State. And I remember a reporter tweeting out that Georgia's defenders were on the sideline saying they don't have a Marvin Harrison Jr. They turned him into an adjective. They turned him into a phrase of something to compare to. When you watch him, the body type, the strength, the catch radius, the route running, everything is there. I compare him to a bigger Devontae Adams in terms of understanding how to beat different leverages, how to understand how to beat different coverages. Out of all these receivers that we see in this class, he may be the only one that consistently saw double teams and bracket coverage from the opposing defenses. Talking about an NFL wide receiver going to play with arguably one of the best young quarterbacks or best quarterbacks in the league. And we've seen this time and time again. Bill Belichick used to do it in New England. Right, he'll bring a team in to into camp, and they'll practice each other, joint practices, and then as soon as one of the players that gave him hell goes to become a free agency, he snatches that guy up if he got the chance. Right, Jim Harbaugh watched Marvin Harrison Jr. torture his starting cornerbacks. Why not bring that guy into your offense?
DP, my question would be, is he going to use him? Because Jim Harbaugh is known, right? We just talked about J.J. McCarthy and how all he did was run the football, and then you look at it now, right? And like you said, Michael Crabtree, and there were no receivers with Michigan that really emerged as top guys. So that would be my only, if I had any criticism of it, would be, hey, how are they going to actually use Marvin Harrison Jr.? But Marvin Harrison Jr. is my number one ranked player on my big board.
Matt, you're in the Pitt area. You remember young Larry Fitzgerald. Is that too long
to Pitt? Yeah.
Comparison? When we're talking about a faster Larry Fitzgerald, is that even possible? Because we're already talking about a Hall of Fame guy, and you throw a couple of ticks on his 40 time. Wow.
Some of these comparisons are a little bonkers. I mean, at BP, we were joking the other day. Someone's talking about a bigger Steve Smith. I mean, this running back's a combination of Barry Sanders and Jim Brown. I mean, let's not get too crazy. But we were just talking Hall of Fame a second ago. I mean, one thing I do every draft class is I always look at them right before the draft. And I'm like, if I had to put a chip down of one player in this draft to go to the Hall of Fame, who's my pick? And it's Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think most people would agree with me, with all respect to Neighbors and Adunze, who might even be the second and third best player in this draft, to be honest with you. They're unbelievable. But it's a scary place, but I wonder about getting him Harbaugh's head. I mean, I'm sure he looks at like J.C. Latham and says, we could get 5 yards every time we hand the ball behind that guy, or Alt, or can I really take a Buckeye with the first overall pick? Yes, he tortured me, but my first pick ever as a Charger he's the most competitive human being on the world. I mean, would he do it, or is he finally to say, this is the best guy? I mean, it's a strange situation to me, but I think there's a very good chance the Chargers don't make this selection at 5. I don't know why. I don't know how. I could see somebody even coming up, or the Cardinals come back up for Harrison or whatever, and he ends up with a tackle and a receiver later.
I agree with Matt on that. And the thing is that there's so many offensive tackles in this class, right? So it doesn't even necessarily have to be, hey, if I trade out of 5, I need to be at pick 9, right? You can be at pick 12, 15, 18, or 23, right? You have a good chance to get an offensive tackle.
And I like what Matt said as well, is about trading back with Arizona. If you're the Cardinals, man, and you made that trade with Minnesota, you got extra picks. Now let's go back up and get our guy. Let's go up and get the guy we actually wanted at 4. And I remember hearing this week that has been a discussion point for Arizona, that Monty Ossenfort wants to trade back and get picks, but he also wants his guy too. He wants both, right? The phrase is cake and eat it too. We just got to see if he has a chance of dealer's choice to be able to buy that cake and be able to eat it at the same time.
Could you get a free first by going back and then jumping right back up and just get that extra 20?
That's that quarterback tax,
Yeah, and the Cards did it last year. Monty's ready to deal, so that'll be an interesting one with the 6th pick in the 2024 Locked On NFL Mock Draft. But first, let's go to the Locked On War Room. Little surprise there and some elation over this last pick. Here's Locked On Saints host Ross Jackson.
Hey, Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Chargers. My goodness. Oh, yes, Patricia, this is great for you.
Thank you.
Bo Nix falling in her lap, man.
Bo Nix is right there.
You and your Bo Nix, you're going to be surprised.
That's awesome. I love this pick for the Chargers. Like the Chargers had to shed so much talent and everything like that. They had to move on from Keenan Allen, but then you go from Keenan Allen to Marvin Harrison Jr. You get a guy that you can move around and everything, kind of like Keenan Allen moved around. They're not the same receiver, but you get the versatility and the inside outness of them. This is awesome. This is great for Justin Herbert. Now let's see if they can win games.
That's the top 5. Let's see what Joe Marino and Kyle Krabs have to say about the selections of J.J. McCarthy and Marvin Harrison Jr.
Kyle, when the Minnesota Vikings acquired the 23rd pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the writing was on the wall that they were serious about moving up for a quarterback, and that's exactly what they've done. They gave up 11, 23, and a 2025 first to get J.J. McCarthy. Now, I think the question for me now is, all right, Minnesota, this is your guy. You gave up a lot to get him. How do you make this work with J.J. McCarthy, who has tools, comes from a pro-style system, had a lot of success at Michigan, but also wasn't necessarily the catalyst for that offense? Kyle, how do you feel about this new marriage of the Minnesota Vikings and J.J. McCarthy?
Well, I don't think he necessarily has to be the catalyst of this offense, at least to start either. When you consider the supporting cast, this is the inverse of what we talked about last time we were here talking about Drake Maye, where you have Jordan Addison, and Justin Jefferson, and TJ Hawkinson, and a pretty well-established offensive line in year 3 in a system that is off the Shanahan coaching tree, where there's a lot of schemed and designed throws and getting you out on the edge and utilizing your athleticism. I think that makes life a lot simpler for J.J. McCarthy. And I certainly think that part of this conversation, there would have been destinations for J.J. McCarthy where I would not have had a lot of optimism. Now, it's a hefty price to pay, and we'll see what that ultimately ends up bearing for Minnesota. But I think you could find fewer, more attractive fits for a player like J.J. McCarthy, who has obvious appeal, but was not asked to be the guy in his offense the way that he was not at Michigan.
Good landing spot for him. The new landscape of quarterbacks in the NFC North is pretty exciting with, of course, we have J.J. McCarthy, and we have Caleb Williams, and we have Jordan Love to go with Jared Goff. It's a fun quarterback division for sure. Kyle, I know that quarterbacks are all the rage when it comes to the NFL draft, and we're all excited about where these guys are going to go. But to me, player one is Marvin Harrison Jr., and Jim Harbaugh gets to stick and pick him at number 5. Now, they had a clear need at wide receiver after they, of course, traded away Keenan Allen, after they cut Mike Williams. They had a big-time need there. But if there's a prospect in this draft that I feel great about being able to step in and produce at a high level in year 1, you're pairing Marvin Harrison Jr. with Justin Herbert. That feels like a lethal connection for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's the opportunity along with the skill set that he has, where you figure this is probably going to be, if he's healthy, a 120 to 150 target player, like right off the jump as a featured player in their offense in the passing game. And they'll run the ball a ton, but because they'll run the ball a ton, they should have plenty of opportunities for Marvin Harrison Jr. to win over the middle of the field and one-on-one on the perimeter with a quarterback that can hit throws with consistency or take play action shots down the field. He's shown the ability to do all of those things. And I think that's the biggest appeal, is there's something for every style of offense. And when you place it into being a featured role in an offense, you have high expectations, and you should have high expectations, because Harrison Jr. is one of the more complete players in this year's class.
Got to be honest, I'm getting a little excited about that potential pairing of Justin Herbert with Marvin Harrison Jr., what that might look like, some play action passing. I think there's plenty of targets, and he might get all of them after they're done running the football there, even as a rookie, because I think he's plug and play and ready to go early in his career if he does end up with those Los Angeles Chargers. And we will find out what Patricia Train is going to do now at pick number 6, the host of Locked On Giants. These quarterbacks getting swooped up before she has a chance. Could we see Bo Nix? Could we see quarterbacks 5? Could we see quarterback 6 going? I gotta think, Matt, it's a lot more likely that quarterbacks 5 and 6 can creep into round 1 if quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4 in the draft, right? Because nobody's slipping to any of the other quarterback needy teams.
To me, though, if I'm the Giants, I'm thrilled that these 2 receivers are available. I would run to the podium probably for Neighbors. Their receivers are so bad. They reworked their offensive line. And then I'm on the phones for Nix or Penix, preferably, as they fall. And if I lose out this year, so be it. Give Daniel Jones every crack at it. And when he fails, we'll be picking near the top of the draft next year.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I agree. I think if you're going to hit your wagon and stick with Daniel Jones, you got to give him a weapon that's going to make his life easier, right? And I think either guy, in different ways will make his life easier. I think Rome, to me, might be the most ideal fit because it would give him that size at the actual prototypical X receiver because they have Wan'Dale Robinson, you have Jalen Hyatt. I believe they still have Darius Slayton as well. We don't know how long Darren Waller is going to be there. He was contemplating retirement this offseason at one point, reports were. So getting a Rome Odunze to be that prototypical X, that guy that he could just, that phrase, Rome is down there somewhere. Like he's that type of receiver with the ball skills and size and kind of an accuracy improver for a quarterback where Daniel Jones hasn't been the most accurate quarterback in his career. The name Danny Dimes died a long time ago. So I think that would be a great opportunity. I think taking a quarterback here, that's risky business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the reason why if I'm Brian Daboll, I'm probably flipping tables right now inside of the New York Giants facility. And the reason is this, that I was somewhat on the hot seat with the fans last year, right? Where we didn't make the playoffs, we regressed. And then now you're going to ask me to lose Saquon Barkley, right, which was my best player on my entire team. And then you're going to ask me to go make the playoffs again without a quarterback that has thrown more than 20 touchdowns. We got excited about Daniel Jones, but I believe that season was 17 touchdowns, and that got him a big $40 million contract. So if I'm Brian Daboll personally, I'm feeling like I'm in a really tough situation moving forward.
Well, that's it for the first episode of the Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special, sponsored by LinkedIn. On the next episode, it's the rest of the top 10. Will we see a 5th quarterback off the board? Tune in to find out. And don't forget, you can find the entire special on both audio and video at the Peacock and Williamson NFL show, Locked On NFL Draft, and Locked On NFL podcast feeds. For Matt Williamson, Damian Parson, and Keith Sanchez, I'm Brian Peacock. We'll see you for the rest of the top 10 in the next episode of the Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.